Okay, welcome everyone on our today's webinar from our series New2Tricity, which is dedicated to all of new people in our region who decided to relocate there and to settle in here in our Pomeranian region. Welcome today. My name is Anna Jagodzińska-Warzych and I'm the investor spokesperson in Invest in Pomerania. And together with my teammates, we are creating this series. So this is the first episode in this year, but not the first one at all. In general, you can find our previous conversations and meetings on our Live More Pomerania channel on YouTube. So please follow our channel, subscribe it so you will be updated with all of our recent materials. Today we have a new meeting, first one this year. We will be discussing how to set up your business in Poland. So you'll be able to learn more about different forms of doing business here in Poland. I would like to welcome and introduce you our expert, Mr. Krzysztof Skrobański from Cognitor law firm in Gdańsk. He's the solicitor. He will introduce you himself in a few minutes. So Krzysztof will be speaking today about doing business in Poland. He will share with you his knowledge, his experience. I hope you will enjoy it. So without further ado, Krzysztof, please, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much. I hope I'll be ready to show you my screen, and I'd like to welcome you and thank you for your interest in Pomerania as a place of doing business. I think it's a great idea. It's a great place to live and a great place to have your business. And I hope I'll be ready and I'll be able to give you some information on what types of business can you open in Poland or how can you incorporate in Poland, and also some tips and tricks on how to do it and how to deal with not very simple matters of Polish bureaucracy and Polish legal system. But first, a few words about me. As Anna just introduced me, my name is Krzysztof. I know that it might be a bit difficult for the people that are not from Poland or Slavic-speaking countries, so they tell me, they see me as Chris. They see me as Chris. And it's great for me to tell you a bit about myself. As Anna said, I'm a lawyer. My legal title is radca prawny. It's a rough equivalent to solicitor, meaning I have dedicated my life, and it's my life project, to the commercial and business law. I have graduated from the University of Gdańsk, but I spent some time at University of Sheffield and Universitat Köln. And I'm a happy business owner, a managing partner in Kancelaria Prawnicza Cognitor. This is a law firm, it's a boutique one. We have about 10 people right now, and we specialize in commercial law and IT and IP law. But to be honest, one of my professional hobbies, if I can say, my professional interests is actually bringing foreign corporations and bringing foreign business to Poland, because it's quite exciting to be a part of a new project, of a new expanding firm that is trying to look for another market. And I have quite a number of newly created companies in my portfolio. When I do not work, I am a terrible history nerd. You can ask me about anything historical, especially Gdańsk related. I also sail. I'm a sailing instructor, and I terribly love anything fantasy or sci-fi, and read a lot. So now a bit less, just because I have a newborn son and he keeps me from reading, and I think that it might take some time for me to go back to reading as much as I used to. But enough about me. I think it's time we moved to the types of business activity, business entities in Poland. Please note that 45 minutes is just enough to cover the basics, and I'm not trying to make it an academical lecture about Polish commercial law and Polish code of commercial companies, or any type of very in-depth presentation of the subject, because it could take a lot more time. But I think that what I'm trying to show you would be enough for you to look for and to direct yourself in one of the directions, or in towards one of the options that I'm presenting here. So the main three types, if I can say, of business activity in Poland are business entities, partnerships, and companies. Whilst business entities are the simplest to register and the simplest to create and to, let's say, conduct, the partnerships are a number of organizations, are a type of organizations where the people, the partners, come up with some idea together and hold some business and conduct the business as a group, as a common organization. And whilst the companies are something that is common in the whole world, so the entities in which the capital or the shareholders paying for shares definitely decide on what is happening in the companies and what decisions do they make. This is for me quite important to say, because everybody in Poland can basically create any kind of business entity, but some business entities or some types of business activity are more complicated than others, which is obvious, but also there are some provisions of law that prevent some forms of organization from conducting business in some scopes, such as situation with banking sector. As per Polish banking law, only a joint stock company, so spółka akcyjna, is possible to conduct a banking business, apart from some irregular provisions. Apart from those three groups, there are some specific situations where some other entities or some other actors are becoming members of commercial, let's say, trade or commercial sector, and these are either cooperatives or sometimes NGOs, such as associations or foundations. But this is not a rule. This is more of a possibility for those entities, and I would not like to concentrate on them so as not to waste time on something that is quite specific and not applicable to all the situations. So to list all those information, we have business entity, so the sole trader or self-employment, the simplest possible way of conducting business in Poland, where you only register as yourself as a business owner, and you can practically do most of the things that are possible to do in Poland, or that are legally possible to do, under your own name and under your own tax number. Something a bit more complicated, it's a civil law partnership. It's a business entity constructed as an agreement between two sole traders, and it's formally not a partnership, but only this contract. It's not very complicated, and it bears some risks, of which I will tell in a second, in a minute. So The partnerships, as I said, we have 4 types of partnerships. There is a registered partnership. In Polish, it's called spółka jawna. It's the simplest partnership, just comprising of a group of people wanting to conduct a common business and trying to do it as joint venture, let's say, or join their forces. Then we have this professional partnership that is restricted to only some professions and provides some limitation of liability in terms of professional, let's say, mistakes or professional liability of partners. Then we have limited partnership that is comprising of 2 types of partners, in which one is totally and fully liable for the company's credit and for the company's debts, whilst the other one is only interested in being a part of an investment, and his or her their liability is highly limited. And another type of partnership, it's a situation where we have one person fully liable for the company, whilst the shareholders of spółka komandytowo-akcyjna only are liable for the amount they paid for their shares in the company, meaning they have practically lost any liability for this company's business. And last but not least, 3 companies. Limited liability company, in Polish spółka z ograniczoną odpowiedzialnością. Then we have, this is a rough equivalent of German Gesellschaft mit beschränktem Haftung or common law LLC. Then we have simple joint stock company. It's something quite new in Polish legal system. In Polish, it's prosta spółka akcyjna, meaning simple joint stock company. It's the Polish response for the startup requirements. It's startup sector emerging in the whole world. It's quite new. It's quite flexible, but it has some, let's say, teething problems. And at last, the joint stock company, spółka akcyjna, meaning it's the only type of company that is prepared from the start as a company that could be traded on a stock market. As per business entities, I would like you to know that business entities, so the sole traders and civil law partnerships, are basically registered at something that is called Centralna Ewidencja I Informacja o Działalności Gospodarczej. I know in Polish it sounds terrible, but this acronym CEIDG should do the trick. So this is the registry of all the business entities, the simple business entities that exist in Poland. If you are looking for a contractor in Poland, or if you are looking to vet your possible, let's say, contractor or possible business partner, and they declare themselves as sole traders or want to get into B2B contract with you, this means that they will have their entry in CEIDG, so in the Central National Register. What is quite as important is that registration at this register of incorporation in that way is completely free of charge. And I am saying that because it is quite a common scam in Poland, it used to be at least, to provide newly created companies, or just before the company, not the company, but before this business entity is registered, to inform the the newly incorporated about the fact that some more cash is required, or some money is to be paid about that. And to be honest, it used to be a scam. Remember, it's something that is free of charge, and nobody should ask you to pay anything for the registration. How can you register a business entity? Basically, you can do it either at an office. So every, and I mean every municipality in Poland, every gmina should have a place where a business can be opened. So the bureau or the office of the economic activity or something like that. You can do it there with the help of a clerk. They will ask you to fulfill the information, to provide all the necessary information for registration, and they will file it for you. The problem is they have usually quite a limited knowledge of English or any other foreign language, so it would be good to meet them with someone either proficient in Polish and that could translate for you, or with some other help from the outside, let's say. The other way of registration of business entity is registering it by post. You can just print out the documents, fill them in on your computer, print them, sign them, and send them by post. And eventually, and currently the most popular way is to register your business entity electronically. And it's via the website business.gov.pl. There is quite a nice information, quite a nice web page that will guide you through creation of the company. And as far as I remember, and as far as I know, it's also equipped with English version, so it's not that overwhelming. Getting to creation of such business entity, you need to remember that you have to find the name of the entity, but it will be required for you to leave your own name as a part of the full business name of this entity. So in my case, if I wanted to create a business entity in Poland, it would be, for example, X-Men Krzysztof Skrobański, so that I am identifiable and my business is, let's say, identifiable for the company, for other companies and for other business partners. Also, some information about scope of your activity, place of doing business, and the type of taxation that you're planning to use. But to be honest, I will refrain from saying you a lot about Polish tax system, just because I got the information that one of the next meetings is being held by the tax specialists and tax experts, so I will not just overstep my boundaries in here. What is quite important about having business entity in Poland in one of those simple forms is that you will always take full responsibility for the actions and risks of the business. So in case you get creditors, in case you have some debt in your company, in your business, it will transfer to your private funds. This means that your own private money, your own private furniture, your own private car could be a part of a potential lawsuit concerning dealings of the business entity that you were holding. And what is also quite important is that the Polish marriage system decides that in some situations also a part of marital, let's say, estate could be a part of claims against someone that is having their own business entity. So this means that if you are planning to hold some very risky business activity, this is not necessarily the way to go with the simple business entity. And if you decide to move with this business entity in your business, you need to consider your, let's say, marriage or your private situation, your private life as well. This also applies to civil law partnership. But as I've said, this is actually a contract between two sole traders that creates a common estate between them, that could be treated as a common partner by their business partners or by their clients. It's a bit complicated and not very popular, but it used to be quite popular back in the day, and it's still a part of Polish legal system. Basically, as an expert can say that I do not advise creating civil law partnerships just because they get a bit risky year by year. If you get more and more clients, more and more customers, more and more assets, it becomes a bit too risky at some point to either dissolve such partnership or to do anything about it, because it's basically unsellable or untransferable. So just watch out. You can think about it, but I would not advise starting with civil law partnership anyhow. About partnerships, as I've said, we have those 4 types of partnerships. I will start with spółka jawna. As I've said, it's the simplest form. It's something that is created by the special agreement, the Articles of Association of such limited partnership. This defines what are the people that are entering the company, this partnership, what is their inclusion to the company, or what will they give to the company, as well as how much share or how much wealth or how much profit would they get out from the company. In this professional partnership, the situation is similar, but the liability is a bit different. I will tell about it in a second. And in those 2 other types, in spółka komandytowa, as I've said, or in limited joint stock partnership, so spółka komandytowa akcyjna, there is a situation where basically one partner is held responsible for all the actions of the partnership, whilst the other ones, at least one of them needs to exist, are only liable up to the amount they invested in the company. Actually, this spółka komandytowa, it has a long story as well as the spółka komandytowa akcyjna. They are the types of companies that existed from the 13th century in Venice and have been quite successful for those 700 years. They have been created as a mean or as a vessel to deal with a situation where quite a risky business is being conducted by someone that is willing to take this risk, but with the money of an investor that would be willing just to not to interfere in the general business of the company, but only provide some funding. It does not matter which type of partnership are we creating. All of them are created in National Court Register. So in Polish, it's Krajowy Rejestr Sądowy. It's an electronic registration. It's an electronic system that helps creation of the company, incorporation of the company, and provides you with some information, but also gives you some requirements on what is needed to register a partnership of this type. So please remember that the creation of a company in national that would be present in National Court Register is always subject to court payment. I will tell you in a second how much is it, but please remember that if you decide to create anything other than this simple business entity, there will be some court payments, and there might be some other payments as well that would be required to create a company in a certain legal form. As per basic concepts of all those partnerships, please remember that they are focused on partners. It does not necessarily mean that whoever paid the most is the most effective or the most profitable partner in the partnership. They are usually, well, as per the general provisions of the law, they are constructed as groups or organizations of equal power between the partners. So you would need to remember about certain situations in which you would like to have this one particular vote or this one particular veto to use in your partnership dealings with your potential partners. Partnerships generally do not have separate, oh, excuse me, separate legal personality. This means that even though they exist in this National Equity Register, they still have, they still are relying on their partners as a source of credibility and liability. Excuse me again, sorry. The profit of the company is always redistributed amongst partners, and except this spółka komandytowa akcyjna limited joint stock partnership, they do not have any share capital. So you must remember that creating a partnership usually would not cost you a lot of your investment money, but would require you or could require you to deliver work or services on behalf of the company, whilst the partners of the company are treated as traders jointly conducting a business under the name of the partnership. The profits are then of this business are then divided by amongst the partners as per articles of association or as per the contract of the company. Please also remember that it is possible to divide amongst the shareholders, amongst the partners, how much would they get of a profit from the company. So it's not always equal, but it requires the articles of association to decide on how much profit would the certain partner get in this certain company. As per liability, basically, the idea is that all the partners are somehow, or at least some of the partners, are somehow personally liable jointly with the company. So in this situation, we have a moment where it does not mean that my private, let's say, assets are connected with the assets of the company, but I should act with enough due diligence so that the company's assets would cover all the debts and possible creditors that could arise, because if not, me and other partners are at risk of transferring some of our private funds to cover the problems of the partnership. As I've said, in spółka jawna, in this general limited partnership, there is a situation where all the partners are somehow responsible. In spółka partnerska, so in this professional partnership, we have a situation where the partners are responsible for the general activity of the company as if they were in a regular limited partnership. So for gas, electricity, or some simple, let's say, costs. But in case of their own professional liability, they are separated. So I myself, I'm conducting my business in a form of professional partnership. So this means that if I make some mistakes and I advise my clients wrong and there is a claim, none of my partners would be liable for my own mistakes. Simple, elegant, useful sometimes. I have said a few words about this limited partnership and limited joint stock partnerships with those two types of partners, whilst one is definitely on hook with their liability, whilst the others are also only investors and only paying some money to the investment fund of the company, basically. The companies. As I've said, three types of companies: limited liability company, spółka z o.o., simple joint stock company, prosta spółka akcyjna, and joint stock company, spółka akcyjna. Please do not, if you have any knowledge of company law, please do not take the names that I show you or the equivalents that I've translated for you from Polish to English as the one-to-one translations. Any of the names of the companies in any of the legal systems have their own small differences, but nonetheless, the rough equivalent is there, as I've presented to you and as is visible. The companies are also registered at National Court Register. The court payments also apply, and the basic concepts are the shareholders, so the investors giving money to the company, are in power. So the decisions of the company are not made, the strategical decisions, let's say, are not made by a group of friends or partners on equal terms, but rather are made on the basis of who has invested how much in the company. So in case I have invested 51%, I could be almost sure that I will have the upper hand in most of the votes on the existence of the company or on how to deal with certain things in the company. The profit is redistributed yearly. It could be redistributed a bit more often, but basically it's a situation where the dividend is paid only once a year, unless there are some special provisions. But it's not a situation where the dividend is paid month by month as a means of sustaining, let's say, the shareholders' basic needs. They have invested and they are waiting for the return of the investment. As I've said, the share capital affects the status in the company, but the documents, the articles of association or the statutes of the companies could provide some other provisions or could define some individual practices or individual obligations to certain shareholders regarding some votes or regarding some powers in the company. The company always has their separate company organs, such as the management board and the supervisory board, or the board of directors, as in simple joint stock company. And as a result of that, all the companies, please note, not the partnerships, all the companies have their separate legal personality, meaning they are required to act in a business, in a trade, in commercial sector, as a separate persons from their creators. And this means that investing, capitalizing, or borrowing from such a company, even though I am their creator and their shareholder, would require me to enter a contract with such a company. I cannot just give my company money and take some back, give my company back money, take some back. I would always need a legal reason and a legal document for that, as if I was doing business with some, let's say, unrelated third party. If I can move to liability or responsibility in case of companies, please remember that being a shareholder, just a shareholder in any of the companies, does not bear any personal liability beyond the amount that you have paid for the share that you have invested. Being only a shareholder prevents you from becoming anyhow liable for the company's business or credit or debt. The problem begins when you decide to become a member of a management board, because management board or the board of directors only possible to create in simple joint stock company is the group of people, or is one person from 1 to unlimited basically, that would hold on to basic general day-to-day business of the company, equivalent of the common law CEO, CTO, and so on, CFO, whilst being, at least in case of the limited liability company, possibly personally liable for their business. And in limited liability company, that is actually the most common type of company in Poland. I will tell you about it, why, in a second. Even though there is this matter of small liability or of a risk of liability, it's the most common company type in Poland, but the management board members could be responsible for company's actions, whilst in simple joint stock company or the regular joint stock company, the management could be responsible providing they acted with bad faith or with fraudulent circumstances against the interest of the company. And it is not something that is happening very common for the courts to, let's say, appoint such situations, but it's really a small of a risk that could ever happen. I would like to move to registration right now, because the registration is common for partnerships and for companies in this situation. As you already know, we have 2 registers. One is CEIDG for the simple businesses, and the second one is KRS for partnerships and companies. And please note that there was a plan to have 1 registry, but the plans have failed. But there are still plans to somehow merge those registers together. Currently, we are operating in Poland with 2 different business registers. If you are looking for any companies in Poland, you should look in KRS first. And again, getting information from the KRS about the company is free. There is also a number of websites that are I would not use exploiting, but they are providing the same information that is provided by the official court system, but they require you to pay small amount, like €5 or €10 or something like that. Please remember that you can always get a registry from an entry from the registry of a company for free on your own computer. The problem is that it's usually in Polish, so sometimes it creates a bit of a problem. Basically, registration of the company in Poland currently is held electronically. It used to be either physically by paper or electronically, but now it's switched totally to electronic registration. And we have 2 different options. We have this option via system S24 that is provided by the state, by Polish government, and allows you to create a simple company, limited liability company, or limited partnership from pre-made blocks, from pre-made clauses. If you need to keep it simple, you can move through that system, and it will move you through the certain steps, like, do you want your company to have this or that? And if you do, you just click, yeah, we want this option. And this makes this process quite simple and quite, let's say, possible to manage even without much of legal practice. But if you are looking for something more complicated, and if you need something that is tailor-made just for you, or you are in a specific business where you are, or in a specific situation where you are looking for some specific clauses in your contract, you would need to go to to make your articles of association by yourself and register them via a system that is called PRS. It's called in Polish Portal Rejestrów Sądowych. And you provide the scanned and electronically signed copies of the documents in there. What is required to register a company? Basically, we start with the name of the company or the partnership, the seat or the city in which the company is created. The address is also important, but in your articles of association, only a city would be indicated. The address always can change. Then the scope of activity. A few words about that. This is a huge catalog of possible statistical scopes of activity in Poland, from selling grapes to creating spaceships. And you need to provide at least one of them in a great detail. So, for example, it would be selling grapes and oranges from a sanitized stand. Then you can move on to provide other supplementary scopes of activity. They do not need to be anyhow connected with your main one, but at least one of your scopes of activity need to be provided, either for statistical reasons, but also in terms of some tax reasons. Polish tax offices tend to look what is your formal scope of activity of your company or of your business, and would tend to look for possible tax exceptions that you were trying to use and show that you are not allowed, well, it's not that you are not allowed to go outside your scope of activity, but this is not a cost of doing business because you do not declare that you are planning to do a business in this scope. And this is a part of some investigation and some claims and some disputes with Polish tax offices as well. Then you would need to provide some information on partners or shareholders. So you would need to provide information on their names, addresses, and their agreements, consents for being a part of a company or partnership. This is quite important. Polish court system requires everybody to consent for them being in a company. So it's not possible to provide either silent partner or to make someone a shareholder in a company without them knowing. Then valid statements of residence for the officials of the company, if the company is created, or of partners, if the partnership is created, as well as the way of sharing capital or distributing profit of the company. These are the most basic information that is held into this registry, but usually it could be a bit more complicated, especially if you use this PRS system, because in most types of the company or more complicated partnerships, a notary presence is expected or required by law. And this means that the notary prepares the whole act of creation of the company or statutes, and they are a bit longer and more elaborate, if I can say. But they are also scanned and provided to PRS. As per court payments, as I've said, it's simpler and cheaper, let's say in S24, it's 350 zlotys, whilst using it via PRS, it's 600 zlotys. As per additional costs, I can say that there is also, as I've said, a possibility to pay some notary fees or some legal fees as well if you decide to move along with help of a lawyer, a local lawyer, which I strongly advise. Another three things, just shortly. We have another registration during the registering of the company, their corporation in KRS. Also, you are given tax office number and registration at Polish Social Security system. You should check the VAT or value added tax in your situation, in your company, and file for possible exceptions. check what are you planning to do with the employees. Are you planning to employ anyone or stay, let's say, simple? Please remember about the bank account number to add to a whitelist. This is important in terms of anti-money laundering regulations held in Poland and anti-tax evasion regulations held in Poland. Please remember creating an account on ZUS PUE. I know it sounds, again, quite exotic. It's a separate electronic system connected to Social Security database, and it is a place where any sick leaves, security payments, and any other information is held and is sent to you via the system. They tend to avoid sending paper right now. And the last thing in terms of meritum of my conversation today, it's this REGON number. This is something that brings some dread to newly created companies. Why do you need it? What is it? Because you have KRS number of registration, you have NIP, so the tax number. What is the third number? The third number is only given by the registration, and by the incorporation is given by General Statistics Authority. It's held by the Statistics Authority as well. And if the company is randomly selected, it might be required to provide yearly statistical information about the company's assets and business, and just for the government to know what is the general situation of some businesses in Poland. It's not very thorough, but it's quite difficult to get out of this obligation. But just don't be afraid of this REGON number. It's something that everybody has, and in Poland at least. And even though it's not very much in use right now, it's still something that is being given to any company. I have been talking about the electronic systems that are being held in Poland, and how to use or how to sign the documents provided in those electronic systems. We have two options. One is regular e-signature, and e-signature is provided by private providers. It's a paid service, and it's acceptable for signing all the documents in Poland. It's something that is you are usually given either a token or some specific app on your phone, and you can sign all the documents, and they're treated as if they were in paper. Whilst the second option, ePUAP, requires you to have Polish separate personal identification number that is called PESEL, and it's a bit simplified, provided either by municipalities or cities or by your local bank. If you create a bank account in Poland, you can possibly apply for a PUAP account as well. It's free of charge, and also allows you to sign electronically documents for tax administration, CURT registration, and even to sign contracts electronically. So think about it if you are creating a company, to either obtain e-signature, or after you come to Poland, or after you establish your business here, to get this ePUAP. Small tips at the end. Remember about PESEL number. This is something that is given to the person, not to the company. And it can be granted even for someone that is not a Polish national and is not a Polish tax resident. There is a possibility to obtain a PESEL number even for a member of the board of the company. It makes easier communication with any of the Polish authorities. And also it's quite important, because without PESEL number, there might be a difficulty in filing a yearly report of the company, because somebody did not work exact details of the electronic system of filing yearly reports. And this means that only a person with a PESEL can sign a yearly report of the company. It is quite an important issue. So if you have a possibility, get a PESEL number. Just, it doesn't cost much. It's about 30 zlotys or something like that, 6 euros. But use it, have it. It does not oblige you to anything. You just can have it, but remember to get it. Then remember to ask the clerks at all the offices and then at all the government agendas that are surrounding business in Poland. A lot of people responsible for creation of the companies or for helping possible new companies are very, very helpful. They really want to help you and they really want to clear your differences. However, even though they stay helpful, sometimes they say things not necessarily confirmed by their own, let's say, superiors. So if you get some information, please remember to get it either in writing or at least in an email. And please remember that especially tax offices do not provide any tax advisory or any tax consulting. They will tell you something, but they are not obliged to what they have actually told you, at least not formally. And the last but not least, surround yourselves with good advisors. Find a great communicative accountant. There is a number of them in Pomerania region. Someone that would understand you, that will understand your language and that would understand your business. As well, find someone that could help you in HR business or labor law matters if you are planning to employ anyone, because Polish legal system in terms of employment is also quite complicated. And last but not least, or finally saying, do not be afraid of lawyers. As you can see, I'm trying to, let's say, compose myself as much as I can. Sorry for moving on almost 5 minutes after the agreed time, but it was really difficult to fill all those information inside 45 minutes. Thank you very much. I hope that I was of help, and I can move to Q&A session that was provided in here. Okay.
Thank you,
see them on.
Thank you, Krzysztof, very much. It was a really informative presentation, and I hope that you have already answered to most of the questions which our viewers might have when they were beginning to, watching us. However, we have some new questions which our viewers has asked either in the comments on our YouTube channel or earlier in the questionnaires which they were sending to us while they were registering for this event. Yes?
Yeah, I'm happy to help.
So,
happy to help.
Okay, so let's begin our Q&A session. I will be reading you some questions and please answer our participants if you can. So the first question is, do you have any info about single person company? Because earlier it wasn't possible to have it for Middle Eastern people. Is there any change on that? Is it?
I see it. I see it on the chat, and to be honest, it's not that simple to answer because technically it is possible to create a company no matter of your nationality or no matter of your let's say identity in those terms, but it might be difficult to hold on with such a company, providing you would be the only shareholder and also the only member of the management board without any proof of residence. Sometimes it's better to rely on some, let's say, outside help, and it would be much easier for you to create a company where you would have 95% or 90% and another person would have 10%, and this person would be of at least European Union, let's say, origin or European Union citizenship. And it would be quite easy to create a company like that, and you could then just buy off the shares from them. And it's possible, but it's the problem might be that sometimes some Middle Eastern countries were listed as let's say there were some problems with those anti-money laundering regulations of European Union, and this made those citizens of those nations a bit more restricted in some parts of business. But in my opinion, it's possible to move on with creation of the company and dealing with that in Poland right now with not much of a problem.
Thank you. So the second question, is it possible to register the company or register yourself as an entrepreneur in Poland and do not pay any charges until there is no activity?
Oh, this is actually quite an interesting question because registering a company, meaning registering at KRS, would also mean that most of those companies need to provide what is called in Poland full accounting. So this means that it's not just the basic basic business balance that I have earned. There is so much income and so much cost, and the rest is my profit. But the full-on business accounting thing, like division of the assets and amortization of the assets of the company, and so on and so on. Whilst this creates some costs at the beginning, because you need to create those accounting documents on the go. And even if you have not earned anything, you would have to provide some tax declarations, because not providing tax declaration is basically a crime in Poland. But having said that, registration payments are the first costs of the company, and they need to be paid in order to register a company. But it only applies to those companies that are registered in this national code register, the KRS. If you decide to create a business entity, this is basically free of charge, and you might not have pay any more charges or taxes or any other costs for indefinite time, and providing you do not have any profit from that.
Okay. So now an interesting question, how to start work as a developer? What steps I should follow to legalize my business? So maybe, Krzysztof, you can recommend a type of conducting your business for programmers.
Yeah, it's actually quite great a question for me. It's something that I deal with every day. And to be honest, at this point, if you are planning to start working as an individual web developer, you only need to create a simple business entity. So go to this business.gov.pl and try to create a simple business entity. You do not need at this moment any company, any partnership, or any more complicated way of doing business. You just need to register yourself, and after you get this NIP, so NIP number, the tax number, and you get your REGO number, you can start your business freely. But having an accountant is not a must. It's something that you could have at this moment and this form, but you are not required to. Of course, to be honest, I strongly advise to hire accountants, because as far as I remember, the average price for the accounting services for individual businesses of the type of web developer or something like that, it's about 200 zlotys per month or 250 zlotys per month total. So it's not a lot of money, but it gives you a bit more confidence or a bit less risk in terms of whether you have provided all your invoices and all your documents or your fiscal documents in the system. But I know a lot of people that just are well organized and do it without their accountant present. You just need to remember to have some access to some accountants, let's say, systems, and you can deal with that on your own as well.
Okay, so thank you, because that's the second question. The next question, it was yes.
Yeah, I
Is
look
it
at the chat as
necessary?
well. So
Okay, that's great. So if it's if there is a need to have an accountant, okay. So next question is, if somebody is working from home, can he claim living costs, yes, as an expense? If yes, what kind of
mm,
documents if
well,
there is a need
it
to
depends.
have?
Again, you ask a lawyer, you always have the answer. It depends, because starting from starting from the from well, from getting it from the start. It depends on the type of taxation that you have chosen or that you are choosing for your business. There is a number of types of taxation, and I haven't touched it. And as I've said, I'm leaving it to the tax expert for the next meeting or for some of the next meetings. But in general, there are some tax regimes in which you technically could use your living costs, or at least some of them, as an expense of your company, of your business. But it depends who is signing those documents, meaning, are you signing your contract as your company or as a private entity? Are you signing your internet connection as a private person or as a business entity? And basically, you would have to look around your paper trail, let's say, and provide that most or all the information that you have, and most and all the costs that you have, are connected with your business, and your business is a part of this contract. If not, there might be a difficulty to count them as expenses. But remember that even though you would love to work from home, it is quite difficult to provide as an expense just the rent for your apartment. Apartment as such is not a business venue, is not a business registered office or anything. So the tax offices would not look kindly at taking such rent of a private apartment as a part of a expenses.
No, I see. That's really helpful, Krzysztof. Thank you. We have also a question. What if, after special circumstances, one of partners cannot complete the partnership? What's the consequences on that person?
To be honest, I do
Uh,
not necessarily understand the question, but
this is a question from Wasim. Maybe you can please develop your question in comments, so maybe we'll be able to get back to it. But meanwhile, we have another question. What company do I need to register for a B2B contract with my employer?
again, it depends. Again, it depends. But the simplest one and the most popular choice amongst the B2B contractors is just simple business entity. It's simple. It's practically formality free. It gives you some freedom. You are your own boss, and in most of such situations, we have a just the separate business entity registered at CEIDG. But if you think that it might be a risky business, or that you have encountered some other problems, or you know that there might be some creditors in there, you can always try to use some company as a shell corporation for your, let's say, for your business and for your plans.
Oh, so
but I would advise first to start with just the simple business entity.
Okay, so with these companies will be also connected the last question for today from Michel Fiorini. could I have a spółka z o.o., for example, in Tri-City alone? Do I need to be registered in Poland, or could it be Poland only occasionally?
There is no problem in having a company in Poland and not being in Poland all the time. To be honest, I am working for almost 10 years now with a great company situated in Scandinavia, where the CEO of quite a big capital group is also a member of the board in a Polish company. And to be honest, they only visit occasionally, or just we keep in touch, or we keep in contact electronically. They send me signed documents, or now it's easy with the electronic signatures. And it's not a problem to physically hold on to a company in Poland. It's more problematic if you do not know how to deal with those formalities that would allow you to have a company in Poland. Moreover, there is only one problem, that all the core company documents need to be signed, and this means that all the meetings need to be, at least formally, held at the territory of Poland. So in case you stay somewhere else than Poland, you would still need to, at least legally and formally, provide information that, for example, the management board or the shareholders meeting have made some decision in Warsaw, in Gdańsk, in Kraków, or wherever, but in the territory of Poland. If you formally move any of the organs of the company from Poland, then you have a problem. But until the company itself is contained in Poland, there is no problem. You can only visit it once a year, or even less.
Okay, and can you be the only one shareholder when you have the limited liability company?
Yes, no problem. No problem. The problem, or the challenge in there, is if you are also planning to use Polish social security system, because Polish social security system would not allow you to be an employee of your own company, of which you are 100% shareholder of.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So I think that these are all of the questions which have been asked to you, Krzysztof, for today.
I did not tell where the PESEL number is being obtained, and it's also in any municipality. There is a special form for that, but as far as I know, you can also file it electronically. But quite an important thing is that PESEL number is usually obtainable for people that are Polish residents, so meaning 183 days in Poland per year. But if you are designed as a member of the management board, or any other organ of the company situated in Poland, you qualify for exception, and you could get a PESEL number as well.
Okay. Thank you. If it comes to PESEL and also to the NIP number, I recommend you our previous episode. Last year, we had also a webinar in New2Tricity series about PESEL and NIP number, and this episode is also available on our YouTube channel. So just please go back to it, and then you will find some more details. Krzysztof, thank you very much.
Sorry, I'm still trying to go back to this question of Wasim, and
yeah,
I think that I'll be ready to tell at least some of the questions, some of these questions, to answer some of these questions.
Let me try.
So, in case you get into a partnership, a registered partnership in Poland, there is not a situation where you consider partners separately. We conduct a business as a joint entity, and in case someone fails, it means that we have all failed somehow. And in this situation, for example, if there was a partnership between Anna and me, and we have made, and I have made some bad business decisions that would result in some creditors or some debt amassing against the partnership that we are in, this would mean that both me, our partnership, and Anna could be potentially liable for those debts. And of course, Anna would then have a possibility to sue me because I have made this happen. But towards this party that would ask us for, or our partnership, for the money and to repay the debts, we would, all the three of us, the partnership, Anna and Chris, could be held liable. And I think this would be the best I can get from this question. Sorry.
Thank you, because I hope that it will be helpful for Wasim. So thank you, Krzysztof, for trying. And thank you for your really nice presentation, for all of these informations, for answering to all of these questions. It was really nice to have you here today.
Please excuse me my cough, but it's not an easy day for me, as you can see. I hope that even though I sometimes interrupted myself, it was not only educational, but also informative for you. Please do not hesitate to contact me anyhow if you have any questions regarding Polish legal system or creating companies in Poland. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Krzysztof. And to all of our viewers, we have an invitation for the next webinar from our series New2Tricity. We are planning it to organize it in April, and probably this next episode will be about some tax regulations in Poland. I hope it will be also helpful for you, and that you will be interested in joining us. So please feel welcomed to our next meeting. And for today, for now, I thank you, all of you, for your activity, for joining us. I hope that it was also a pleasure for you to listen to Krzysztof's lecture. Thank you very much, and see you.
Thank you very much.